But today, the infection rates are going up in places that have mask mandates because people aren't wearing them. Now, by June 22nd, 70% of the population was living under mask mandates, and it was in 30 states. Now it's more. It's closer to 80%. Places like Jefferson County, Mississippi has 80% of their counties have mask mandates. More rural places are having the mask mandates, and it's not stopping the infections. Why? Because this is flu season. This is get sick season, and it shows that even with mask mandates, that's not going to stop that. But what people are saying now is, oh, well, that's just because people aren't wearing them. No tests, no verification, no evidence. Simply, we advocate mask mandates as an ideology, and if the information and data does not support what we're saying, then we'll just simply say that it's the other side. And it's this sort of intellectual demonization of rural Americans, or the demonization of the perception of a Trump supporter, or the demonization of the white males or these white people who refuse to comply. But it's a characterization of a particular kind of person that those who consider themselves anti-racist or feminist or liberal or socialist don't like. It is this constructed image of the other side. It's not a real image. There isn't this quintessential person who refuses to do what he needs to do. Person after person I'm seeing who is anti-Fox News, who's anti-Trump, who's pro-LGBT, who's pro-Black Lives Matter, whatever. Person after person I see posting that they've got COVID-19. And my reaction is, man, I feel bad for him. But when Parsons gets COVID-19, or when the Trump people get COVID-19, or when a reopened person gets COVID-19, it's, yeah, that's what you get. But when it's somebody who you identify with intellectually or socially, who's in your circle, who shares your liberal ideology, then it's, oh, well, that sucks, and it's the fault of these other people for not doing the right thing. That doesn't make any sense. You can't say that people you like, if they get infected, they're getting infected because, oh, well, they're doing the right thing. One of two things. Either they're not doing the right thing, which I don't accept, or we don't really know how people get it. It may just be around. And if it's around, people aren't going to want to comply with all this stuff. There's a notion that if you shut things down, it won't spread because places like Melbourne, Australia, and Norway, or wherever, places with completely different places with much smaller populations, South Korea, parts of Taiwan, whatever, they keep looking at all these islands. Oh, I've seen someone name 5 and 6 islands. Why? You do realize that islands, if you cut off travel to an island, you're going to dramatically affect their exposure. Much more difficult to do that in the United States. And then you see people referencing Sweden. And they'll say, oh, well, look at the Scandinavia. Sweden had a much higher rate of death than their Scandinavian neighbors. Well, Finland and Norway, one, didn't have mask mandates, and two, they cut off travel. I'm not saying that that's what it is. I'm just saying that the mass COVID-19 regime advocates are engaged in the very narrow perception of data that Donald Trump supporters are engaged in when it comes to discussing whether or not they think that he won based off of this and that circumstantial situation. Um, the fact is that when you're talking about mass mandates, you're talking about California. And we've been through this, and we'll go through it again. June 19th, mass mandate, rolling average, 60 fatalities a day. July 23rd, rolling average, 118 fatalities a day. August 15th, rolling average, 134 fatalities a day. You know, dealing with cases, I'm sorry, but the PCR test cases, that's not good enough. You know, focusing on cases that we don't know. Different states use different amplification levels. We don't, sometimes you're picking up live virus, sometimes you're picking up infectious virus, sometimes you're picking up viral fragments. So to simply try and to determine the effectiveness of mass based off of cases, no, the issue is hospitalizations and fatalities. And when the Kansas mass mandate was like, well, look at the cases, I don't care if a person is infected with the virus in their bodies. I don't care if they destroy it. You know, they go pass it on to someone else, and then that person destroys it. I'm looking at fatalities. If the fatalities are down, people in Kansas are not making people in Maine sick. That's, if you look at the CDC statement on infectious diseases, it says in general in a pandemic, you're affecting your 20-person circle, and then that different people, that's how it spreads out. So within various 20 people circles, if you're not seeing large fatality numbers in the state, that means they're not causing large fatalities in other states. So even the experts who advocated the mass mandates in Kansas were saying that there wasn't a dramatic difference in fatalities and hospitalizations between mass mandate places and places without mandates. They just said that the infection increases were different, which, if you're not isolating values and breaking the data down, that's not a very meaningful statistic at all. So I'm assuming you're trying to scam me. I'll be honest with you. Let's get. I had another question. If Fauci had to advise people against using any kind of masks, to save N95 masks for professional use, then why would we need mask mandates? In other words, if people were so prone to buy and hoard them up and use them to protect themselves, then why would it be necessary to legislate that they need to wear them? Those two concepts don't work together. People are so self-interested that they'll take them up from the healthcare industry. But now you need to force them to wear them. If you need to force them to wear them, then that means there wasn't a risk that so many people were going to buy them up. So that's a damn lie. And for the COVID-19 regime to embrace the idea that what Dr. Fauci said made sense. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing a huge difference between the Trump folks who are absolutely insistent that Donald Trump may have a chance to win, and COVID-19 regime folks who are saying that Dr. Fauci's on point on this. He's not on point on this. You know,